Greetings. First things first, there are a couple of tools you're going to need. The first tool is going to be your red and green circles. You cut out your right angle template, your 4.5 problem set, your protractor, and a writing utensil. So if you don't have those items now, pause and go grab them. If you have them, get ready to start. All right, so here's what we're going to look at. I'm going to take both of our circles and we are going to actually create our own protractor. And I'm going to stick them one on top of the other, lining up my lines that I had cut on. And I'm going to slide the white one in between the two red circles. So you see how I have two red circles? I'm going to slide the white one in between. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn this slowly but surely. The first thing you need to remember is that circles have 360 degrees. And in this circle, there are 360 1-degree pieces. So imagine this is 1 degree. I can move it again, 2, 3, 4, 5, and keep going. I'm not going to bore you. But there are 360 1-degree movements in this circle. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to move it so that you can see some major benchmark moves, major benchmark angles. So the first one that we're going to do is we're going to make an angle. Hopefully you can tell that that is a 90-degree angle. And if you can't, please take your right angle template and check it. 90 degrees. So that's one. Then if I move it another 90 degrees, I have now made a straight angle. And that is 180 degrees. It takes two 90s to fit in there. Two 90s. So 90 plus 90 is 180. If I move it again, another quarter turn, I have 3/4, I have 90, 180, 270. So I have 3/4 turns, so 270 degrees. And then if I go all the way around, I now have 360 degrees. And if I take my template, it's 90, 180, 270, and then 360. So I have 360 degrees in my circle. What we're going to do now is we're actually going to do some labeling. So please get your pencil out. So when I went around into quarter turns or 1/4 turns, they were pretty big chunks. And there were 4 of them as I went. Now I'm going to show you going into just 1/8 turns. So again, I'm going to set one on top of the other. I'm going to put my white in between my two reds. And I'm going to go in 1/8 turns. This right here is 1/8 of a turn. Is that bigger or smaller than those 4ths? Well, it's definitely much smaller. Please get your writing utensil ready. And what you're going to do is you're going to move about 1/8. If you had gone up to a right angle, that might actually be better. Let's do our right angle. That's 90 degrees. So I'm just going to trace my line, which is what you're doing as well. I need to go halfway between these 2 points. So what I could do is I could just kind of mark my halfway point to know that I want to go halfway between, because I want to go in 1/8, not 4ths. This is a whole 4th. So I'm going to bring it back. And I'm going to trace this line. But I'm going to label it 45 degrees. So we're going in 45-degree chunks. Then when I go back to my 90-degree mark, my line's already there. Remember I drew it? So I now have 90 degrees. You should be able to see that nice and clearly. So if you look at our problem set, we had 45, we had 90. Well, the next one we're going to go up by, it's like a pattern. We're adding 45 each time. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to go a whole 4th, another 4th. Remember that 180 degrees? Draw a line. But then find the halfway point, because remember, we're going in eighths around our circle. So here's my halfway mark, and then I'm going to come back with my shape to add up another 45 degrees. So I'm going right to that mark. So 90 plus 45 is 100. What do you think it is? You got it? 35. Good job. 135 degrees. Then, when I go to that original line I had drawn for my quarters, look at that. Oh, golly. Look what Mrs. Barnes forgot to do. She forgot to draw her line. Sorry about that. I'm going to draw your line. And then you move to a straight angle, which is 180 degrees. All right, please make sure you have those. Again, we're going to go 3/4 of a turn. Trace our line. We're going to find our halfway mark. It's about there. It's not perfect. That's okay. And you're going to bring your protractor back and trace that line. We're adding an additional 45 degrees to 180, and that's 225 degrees. 225 degrees. And then I go back to my line, and I see that we are at another 45 degrees, which is 270 degrees. So I'm breaking this circle into eighths, not fourths. Now, if I did the whole thing, that'd be 360 degrees. So I have to find my halfway mark. I need to bring my red back to that halfway mark. I need to trace it. Perfect. 270 plus 45 more is 315 degrees. And then the last piece of my puzzle would be 360 degrees. These numbers are what go on this problem set. 45, 90, 135 degrees, 180 degrees, and you continue on until you move all of your spaces. So, if I had this here, I have 45, now I have 90, 135, 180. Go ahead and pause while you finish filling in your lines. So you should have all the way up to 360 degrees. This is cutting into 45-degree angles, and I had 8 pieces. What I want you to do now is I want you to grab your protractor. I would like you to set it up so your 360 and 0 are actually on the 360 line. Also, you can poke a hole right there in the center. Not too big, just a little hole. And we're going to make sure that hole lines up with the center of this circle. So I'm going to kind of plot it right here. Make sure that's 360. You remember what we did, right? 45 was our first one. Check this out. That line comes down right about 45. Then we went to 90. Then we went to 135. And then, oh, Mrs. Barnes' line's a little bit off. We went to 180. Then we went to 225. Then we went to 270. Then we went to 315 and then to 360. Oops, 300. Oops, sorry about that. 270, 315, 360. So our little protractor here, it almost is perfect with a real protractor. So if I wanted to know, imagine that I set this up so that my middle was touching and my 360 was on the line, and I wanted to know what degrees this angle was, it'd be 90 degrees. What if I want to know what degrees this angle was? 45. It's between 40 and 50. All right, so what we're going to do this time is we're going to look at set B, and this one's counting by 30s. Do you think 30s are going to be bigger or smaller than my 45s? Well, hopefully you said smaller because 30 is smaller than 45. I'm not going to make you rewrite them again, but really what it would look like is it would be smaller chunks. So it would be more along those lines, 30, 60, 90, whoops, 120, 150, then 180. So you would just have more lines because they're smaller chunks. So on here, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to think about how we count by threes. 3, 6, 9, but it's not just 9, it's 90. 12, but it's not just 12, it's 120. You're going to go up by 30 each time. I want you to pause while you finish that, please. Here's what you should have ended up with, all the way up to 360. In step 2, it wants you to find what angle or what degrees they have in common, so you're just going to circle them. I'll get you started. Your first one is 90 and 90. And then you can go from there to finish answering that question. This one asks for acute, which is anything that's less than 90 degrees. Less than 90 degrees. So we want a measurement less than 90 degrees. Obtuse is a measurement that is between 91 degrees and 179 degrees. All right, so go ahead and grab a partner to finish this with them. And this is just your homework. You have angles laid out for you. 0 to, what is it looking at? 60 degrees. So you want to look where your second line goes to figure out what your degrees are. Ask yourself, acute or obtuse. Good luck.